welcome to episode 87 of Radio Gorepress. I'm Sarah. Joining me, as always, are my lovely co-hosts, Rosie and Phil.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing, guys?
I'm back.
I'm good.
That's it.
That's
I'm
it.
back.
Good.
He's good. We are
That's
done.
as much as we get out of Phil.
Oh my god.
Enough with the pleasantries.
Podcasting is a serious business, guys.
How are you, Ray?
No, I'm good. I'm okay. I'm settled into my new abode,
Yeah.
more or less.
Yeah, this is your first show back in a little while, isn't it?
It is,
Yeah.
everything was all packed up and in boxes, and I had no computer for a bit, and that was dreadful, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, no, it all seems to be settling down now, and I am feeling pretty good about stuff. I feel
Cool.
much more settled than I did. But
Good.
I'm glad to be back recording, definitely. I missed you guys a lot.
Missed
We're
you
happy
too.
to have you back.
Yay!
It's a show with the three of us, I
Yeah.
think.
Always. How you doing, Philip?
I am good.
That's literally, it's like getting blood out of a stone.
We have established this. No, I'm fine. I am
Right, it's not
glad
an
to have you
essay
back,
question.
Rosie. In 500 words or less.
Less, preferably.
Considerably less, please.
Five. How are you in 5 words?
No, you've broken him. This is terrible. This is the worst start possible.
Oh,
Are you okay now?
I just breathed in a bit of
Would you
spit.
would you like to revise your answer, Phil?
I thought we said this was going to be our best show yet, and
Okay.
so far
Phil is no longer good.
Don't. If ever you find yourself wanting to breathe in spit, don't do it. Do not recommend.
I can confidently say I've never been in a position to want to inhale my own spit.
Yeah, it's not high on my list of wants either, so I think we're all good.
Oh, but it is on your list. Interesting.
You know how much I like lists.
Things I want
So-
to inhale, the list.
Oh, no.
Always number one.
Closely followed by
Spit.
Hmm?
Spit. Spit?
Sorry, we'll have to edit that bit out. I was getting nothing from
Yeah,
you then.
same.
I just said spit 3 times.
Right, okay.
I'm going to write down the
We'll
time
have to-
codes of every kind of like fuck up.
That's a good idea.
You're a good idea.
Thank you.
Never.
Cool.
We good? So,
Yes.
this is a show that we've talked about doing a couple times. I think it was almost 2 years ago exactly that we covered 1977 Suspiria.
Really?
Was it?
Yeah, 2018, July, I think. So,
Wow, okay.
That is 2 years ago. 2000.
Isn't it?
July 2018
Unplanned.
was 2 years ago.
yes, Phil, that's how dates work.
I remember there being quite a lot of wine when we watched that.
Yes,
I don't
as
think
is
we were
generally the case
having-
when we're in the same room.
Yeah, I don't think we were having the best time, and I think that wine happened. And then a podcast happened, which was maybe not our wisest choice.
You say that.
It's fine. It's all fine.
So
But yeah, we've
obviously,
basically been saying since then, haven't we? That we should...
yeah, since then. And I know this is a film that we talked about very briefly on one of the mini-sodes. Because you were quite, spoilers, you were quite taken with it, Rosie.
I was very taken with it, yeah.
Yeah. So ever since then, we've been kind of looking for the right time to dedicate a good chunk of time to talk about this film. And that is, of course, 2018's Suspiria remake, directed by, I'm going to mangle his name
Luca
because
G.
I always do. I mean,
No,
we
you
could
can't
go
just
with
say
that.
Luca
I was going to say
G.
Guadagnino?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Let me get the spelling of it up because it... it's like a... Yeah, that sounds right. Guadagnino?
Yeah.
Guadagnino.
I'm confident about the second part of it.
But
Not that he's
Luca
ever going to listen to
is
this, so we're fine.
I might tag him on Twitter if I can, just in the hope he listens now.
Maybe it's
I'm sure he's got better things to do, Phil. Guadagnino sounds better.
Maybe we should just call him Luca G.
Yeah, let's go with that. Just
Lady
Luca.
Mucker.
Let's simplify it completely.
LG.
So before we dive in, have you got a synopsis for us, Rosie?
I do, as ever.
That's convenient.
Oh, well, check me out.
It's almost like we had this planned.
I mean, very, very loosely had it planned in that just before we started recording, you said, does anyone have a synopsis?
That's enough for me.
Absolutely planned.
That's as much planning as I ever do.
I didn't need to tell anybody that we'd just done that. It's been planned for ages. A darkness swirls at the centre of a world-renowned dance company, one that will engulf the artistic director, an ambitious young dancer, and a grieving psychotherapist. Some will succumb to the nightmare, others will finally wake up.
Ooh.
That's a short synopsis. I like it.
I think that's a good synopsis. That was the one that was on, it's on IMDb, but that was also the one for Amazon Prime as well.
Weird side note, where do Amazon Prime pull their bios from?
IMDb.
The synopsis generally. Do they?
Yeah.
Because a lot of them do not make much sense.
They've also got the... interesting that you say that, actually. Maybe it's only the Amazon Originals and stuff that they do that with, because...
That would make sense.
They've got all the film trivia on Amazon Prime as well, ripped
I'm pretty
from
sure
IMDb.
IMDb is owned by Amazon.
Shut up! Shut the front door!
Just saying.
Are you serious?
I think so.
Back
Oh,
the
I mean,
truck
now I'm
up.
doubting myself now.
Well,
At this point, it's probably safe to assume that just like 4 really rich dudes own everything.
and they're
right?
all Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos owns all the other rich dudes.
Pretty much.
Are you looking it up?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Good, we're not waiting for nothing.
It's a subsidiary of Amazon. There we go.
Oh, no
It's
way.
been owned and operated by IMDb.com Inc., a subsidiary of Amazon. So Amazon own IMDb, which explains why the synopses appear on both.
Synopsises.
Yes, that's the correct plural.
Sure, let's go with that.
A
So is it
parliament of
Amazon?
synopsis.
Is it Amazon that I need to complain to about
I mean,
the
almost definitely about anything is going to have to be Amazon that you
I
complain
mean, I
to.
did recently shower another Amazon delivery driver. They're always doing something wrong.
You are so angry with
They keep
delivery
coming in my back
drivers.
garden.
Phrasing.
You... Usually when I'm in the middle of a workout and it's deeply embarrassing. So basically don't interrupt my workouts and I won't yell at you is the lesson there. Actually, I can't promise that.
No, you can't.
No, I'm still, all these years later, I'm still salty about the removal of the IMDb forums.
Which is where Sarah and I met.
I was about to
It
say, wasn't that where you
is.
guys
Because we're
met?
nerds.
God, we're losers.
Massive nerds.
I just want to say I was never on the forum, so not a nerd right here.
Rosie
really
was too
cool,
cool.
actually. Yeah.
Not a,
Give
that
me
doesn't
that
give you
face. I can see that face. I see you. on
not
a
being on the
video call.
IMDb forums does not mean that you are not a nerd. That's not the that's not the beginning and end of the list.
You're not my real mum. I was waiting for the EastEnders. Yes, I am.
Get out my pub. So where do we want to start, guys? I mean, an obvious place to start very quickly would be to mention that it's dedicated to Jonathan Demme. Throwback to the Silence of the Lambs show that we did recently.
Yeah,
Of course, yeah.
I didn't. Wait, I didn't see.
Did you not
that.
catch that?
No, I didn't. Was it in the end credits?
I mean, I haven't seen it for about a week. It's entirely possible I plucked that from thin air and wrote it down. Who knows at this point?
To be honest, I haven't seen it in about 12 hours, so there's a good chance that I also have completely forgotten what happened.
We're all going to be a little bit hazy on this one.
I
Go on.
guess that... I mean, the beginning is generally a good place to start. It's
God, you're such a
set
conformist.
I know. Fuck it. Right at the end. So it's set in 1977, West Germany, and it is set during the time of Red Army faction terrorism going on within West Germany.
It's known as the German Autumn.
Yeah, it's... And, like, literally, it was autumn in West Germany when the film is set. There's an idea that, like, it was set then and at that time and in that place to be a kind of allegory for, like, generational guilt about the Germans post-World War II kind of thing. But yeah, set in the 70s, set at a time where there was a massive sort of terrorist movement going on, the Baader-Meinhof group. And it is referenced throughout the film. When they talk about, like, the RAF, they're talking about the Red Army faction.
That took me a second.
Not the Royal Air Force.
Took me a second as I was watching it the first time.
I got a little bit confused because I know a little bit about Baader-Meinhof purely through falling down Wikipedia pages because of the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon, which led me to reading about actual Baader-Meinhof group. And I happened to notice that it's set in 77 and all the way throughout the film they're talking about freeing Meinhof. Ulrike Meinhof was part of the group and she was imprisoned. But Ulrike Meinhof actually died in 1976.
Oh. Okay.
She was found hanged in her cell in, I think it was May 1976. So this is set in 77 and they're talking about freeing Ulrike Meinhof. She's already dead, mate. And I don't know if that was...
Did they know about that at the time?
Oh, yeah, like... yeah,
would that have been public knowledge?
Yeah, it would have been widely publicised. Because, I mean, she was a terrorist, and terrorists being dead is a plus thing. Yeah, it absolutely would have been known about. And I can't work out whether that was just a really complete lack of sight from the writer.
That would surprise me.
Was that Walter Fasano?
That sounds familiar, yeah.
Or if there was some reasoning behind it, but I can't work out what the reasoning would be.
I just feel like everything else about this film is so meticulous.
Right?
Then there not being a reason for that would really shock me. I can't imagine that sort of oversight being left in.
I really hope that there's something that I've missed which makes it make sense.
That's interesting, because I have absolutely minimal knowledge of the whole Baader-Meinhof thing beyond the Baader-Meinhof effect.
Which is awesome as well.
Which is not... I mean, that's a colloquialism, though, isn't it? It's the frequency illusion.
Colloquialism. Yeah, it's a frequency illusion.
Yeah, which is strange in and of itself. So yeah, it's not something that occurred to me at all. But now I want to go digging.
Well, this is it, and I tried to go digging a little bit more, but like, yeah, she was already dead. How can you free a dead woman? But yeah. But it starts in 77, and it starts with Professor Doctor Josef Klemperer. Which might be my favourite name of all time. Played by Tilda Swinton.
played by one of the 3 Tilda Swintons. Not 1, not 2, but 3 Tilda Swintons.
Are you insinuating that she's got, like, different Tildas? And she chooses one based on how she's feeling? Like, 100%. In Red Dwarf, how he has spare heads.
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm positing.
She's got spare Tildas.
Yeah. I view it more like Princess Mombi in Return to Oz. All the heads in the glass cabinet.
Oh, God. Return to Oz really weirded me out as a film. Sorry, just there were things about that film I did not enjoy.
We should totally cover that one week. Not relevant now. Moving on.
Has there ever been a better name than Josef Klemperer?
No, that's the best name in the world. I think they've
agreed.
Acknowledged it in the Guinness Book of Records.
Peak the naming right there.
Oh, what about that Boots guy?
Oh, Boots Riley. That's a pretty good name too.
I just like that there's someone called Boots in the world. That's the thing that you call cats Boots.
I'm not convinced it's his given name.
Oh.
Rosie's whole worldview is smashed.
Yeah,
sorry.
That's ruined my day. I just had visions of his parents, like, cradling a newborn baby. What should we call him, darling? Let's call him Boots.
I mean, I'm not sure. You could be right. Who knows?
I think you're incorrect.
Okay. I'm not infallible.
With that.
I have been incorrect before, and I will continue to be incorrect.
One thing I did notice with the first sort of scene, because the first scene is where Patricia goes to see Klemperer, and it's where you first find out about, the theory of the witches, and she talks about Mother Marcos and the simulacrum and all of these kinds of things. What I noticed anyway, over anything else, was that they had loads of these weird little interesting cutscenes to, like, areas of his flat which showed disarray and decay. Like, there was a really quick shot of, a good example is the bottom of his armchair, where it's the what's it called? The beading along the bottom's like fallen off and it's hanging off. And it's like, obviously it tells the story of, like, this man does not have much money, like, he's not a sort of rich guy or anything like that.
Despite being a professor doctor.
Yeah, a professor doctor. But it just makes you pity him from the very beginning.
Oh, he's a very sad character.
He's a really sad character. He hasn't really got an awful lot going for him. Like, he's in his sunset years. He can't hear properly. He can't see properly. He can't walk properly. Although, that guy walks a fucking marathon all the time, apparently. Like, all the walking he does.
It just takes him a little bit longer than everybody else.
Oh, it's not actually that long. It just takes him a really long time.
Yeah. He's just hobbling up and down the same street a lot.
He has to have somebody, cook and clean for him and care for him, and in the real sort of last throes of his life. And he's obviously an incredibly sad character as well because of what's happened to him in regards to his wife.
Very tragic backstory.
We are led to not only sort of be sad for Klemperer, but just kind of pity him. Just be like, oh, what a sad little man. It's not necessarily a heartwarming kind of sadness for him.
No, I know exactly what you mean.
And actually, that really plays into itself later on in the film, I think, anyway.
Okay.
But we'll get on to that.
I think it's really interesting. Obviously, you touched on the fact that when we meet Patricia, who, I mean, I guess you sort of make the assumption that she's going to be a principal character or that she's going to make more of an appearance later. And actually, I think Chloe Grace Moretz has a total of like 6 minutes of screen time. in the whole thing.
She's like,
despite being
she's
one
at
of the biggest
beginning and
names
the
in
end, and that's it.
Yeah,
I was about
that's
to
about
say,
it.
being such a big name as well. Big
Yeah.
name, pretty much, what, the second, third character you see.
And almost unrecognizable as well.
Yeah.
But I think
very understated.
I think it's really interesting that they chose to start with that scene and with her basically opening the door to the theory of witches straight out of the gate. Because obviously in the original, that's more of a third act reveal.
Yeah.
There's like whispers of it and hints at it, but they never say the word witch. It's never outed as being a coven till right at the end. Whereas they're just straight out the gate with it.
Whispers of witch.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
Goblin, you wonderful bastards. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of foreshadowing that goes on. She basically tells the truth of the film at the beginning of the film. But Klemperer writes it off so easily as it being a delusion.
It's like delusion, yeah. Which is really interesting because that, I guess, it mirrors Midsummer in so many ways.
Right. Yes. Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You look excited. Are we going to get into that later?
We can get into it now if you want. We can
go for it.
We can throw hands. Fucking hell. Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. There were so many times during this film where I was like, if this isn't a major influence for Ari Aster, then I will be so surprised. The overarching themes of this film is matriarchy and family and unity and women holding each other up and becoming a home when you didn't have a home before. Like the people that you grow with and you make a home with, they are not necessarily your biological family.
Yeah.
And that really hard sort of like blood pact family ideal is seen so many times throughout this film in so many different ways, like in all of the teachers within the girls are looking after each other, like at the end obviously, and they go out for dinner, like they are part of a big happy family who just go out. Like I don't think at any point throughout the film is there an argument.
That's true, yeah.
I don't think there's ever a fight between any of them.
No, and actually I think it's really nice that the relationship between the girls is something that we don't often get to see. Because in that environment, we're so used to characters like that being really competitive with each other.
And like bitchy and cliquey and...
Yeah, and actually there's very little of that. They are all quite supportive, and Sarah's concerned about Patricia, and there's a lot of like sisterly bonding, I guess.
This
like
is
you
it.
say. Like a familial thing.
When there's a point at which Sarah shares the bed with Susie after she's had a nightmare, and Susie says, I've never shared a bed even with my sister before. And Sarah was like, well, I'm your sister now. You know, we're family now. And there's no argument about it. It's just like, no, we are. It's fine. It's cool.
So actually what you're saying is that this is just a really heartwarming 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
That's the message I'm getting from this.
It's a family-based rom-com.
That's certainly one way of looking at it.
With, you know, a bit of meat hooking, I guess. Just a little bit. A wee bit.
We'll get to that.
We will get to that bit. But yes, so many parallels that you can draw with Midsommar, like, especially in terms of the family basis, the occult lines, a witch's coven. I mean, come on. between the sort of witch's coven that you first see at the end of Hereditary and then moving through to Midsummer. Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that this story at least was some kind of massive influence on Ari Aster. I would be so surprised if it wasn't.
I mean, a lot of the bare bones of the story remains intact from the original. They've just they've gone in a different direction with certain aspects, and they've expanded on the story. Because, I mean, one thing that I always think is a really unfair criticism about the original is I've seen a lot of people say, oh, well, there's barely any plot. I disagree with that so hard.
Okay.
There's a very, very distinct plot. I mean, it might not be an overly fluffed up one. It's not a bloated story.
Yeah, but it didn't need to be.
But yeah, but it's also an hour less in running time than this version. And I've obviously heard different complaints about this one, that it's convoluted and pretentious and that it is a bit self-indulgent, a little bit bloated. But actually, there's not a lot in there that I could have happily lost.
I agree that it is probably a bit pretentious and a bit self-indulgent, but I kind of love it.
Oh yeah, no, I'm here for it.
I think that adds to it.
These aren't my criticisms, I hasten to add. This is just something that I see levelled at it quite a lot.
I think the main criticism that I had about the original, and bear in mind, obviously I watched the original first, was that Argento... I personally felt it was a shame that Argento never used the dancing as a key plot. He never expanded on the dancing as a means of expressing storyline, intention, emotion, anything like that. Like, it was all relatively in the background. It was just a thing that was incidental to the rest of the film. And I thought that was a shame, which is why I was so happy when it was so well used in this remake. There was so much imagery and emotion portrayed through that dancing. The notions of like tribalism and ritualism, the fact that they're basically wearing shibori outfits, like they're bound in ropes.
Oh, during the actual performance, yeah.
And they're bound in red robes as well. Like the protagonist of the dance has her mouth covered, and like there's so much that they've done with it. So many little touches, which I just think were wonderful.
Yeah, like it makes sense because, like you say, in the original, it was a bit. There was a separation between the location and the story. It wasn't, there was just a coven of witches that happened to be running a dance academy, essentially, whereas, like
the cover
you say,
could have been anything.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas the dance is an essential part of the magic, as it were. Like, it, as you say, it becomes part of the ritual, and they just seem so much more intertwined as kind of themes in this one than they did in the original.
And I
really love that too.
I absolutely love the moment at which that becomes obvious when Tilda Swinton, number one, arguably the Tilderiest of the Swintons, of the three of them, when she sort of like transfers power to Susie.
When she presses her hands,
her wrists and her ankles. Yeah. And then obviously I love that. It gave me chills.
Actually transfer power.
Well, not to get too far ahead of ourselves in terms of plot, but no. But that's one of my favourite moments in the film, when obviously Olga tries to leave the dance academy. Oh,
the dance!
My
oh my god!
So not only do they cast somebody who's an capable actress, who's also a trained dancer, who's also a trained contortionist, who also happens to have hypermobility. Like, that was genius.
They used a tiny little bit of CGI. They did use a bit of CGI.
Not much, though.
No, it was only for the like bits when she is already contorted and she's being flipped from like upside down to arse over apex. There's a little bit of CGI for that, but all of the actual contortion, I think they used one prosthetic, which I think was like her ribs.
Okay, that
and apart from that, like that's all her. And oh my god, it's fucking horrific.
It's brilliant, is what it is.
She actually peed.
I mean, in a film where everybody seems so dedicated to their craft, who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
If Dakota Johnson can do 2 years of ballet in preparation for this film,
that was
maybe
amazing.
she pissed.
Maybe she pissed.
Yeah.
I think she did. I think that was actual. I'm coining it here. I think it was her wee. I watched a close-up shot of somebody actually urinating. Either way, Olga's fucking
probably
brilliant.
not for the first time.
Yeah.
Ah, rude. That was one time, and you said you wouldn't tell anyone.
My bad. So obviously, to go back to the original very briefly again.
Yeah.
The original Suspiria is the first of Argento's Three Mothers trilogy.
Yes.
And I don't much care for the other films. Mother of Tears I didn't rate at all.
Did he do
But
them,
I feel like they kind of, despite the fact that there are no plans to follow this remake up, they almost lent into that even more heavily. Like there's more mention of, is it Mother Tenebrarum?
Tenebrarum,
Mother Suspiriorum, obviously.
And Suspiriorum. So
Lacrimarum,
tears,
that's it.
Tears, cries, and sighs.
Yes.
Tenebrarum is tears.
Suspiriorum is sighs, isn't it?
And Lacrimarum is crying.
Okay.
Because the Latin is lacrimosa.
Lacrimose. Yeah.
So I feel like they kind of lent into that even more, and especially with what you were saying, Rosie, about the fact that it's so like entrenched in the idea of femininity and matriarchies and the hierarchy that they've kind of almost imposed themselves.
Yeah.
As we later find out.
I mean, throughout this film, other than incidental on like are just on camera characters, there are 3 male parts. There's Tilda number 2. And the 2 policemen who are arguably just used as playthings, like literally used as playthings.
Yeah, I wondered if they were the male parts you were talking about, actually.
Like, just like an entire scene of just laughing at someone's dick. Brilliant. Love it. All about it.
We've all been there.
But those are the only 3 like male parts in the film.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and that was actually what made it Tilda Swinton want to play the professor, because it was a conscious decision
idea?
Because they wanted to really reinforce the idea of femininity. And didn't want kind of a sorry, Sarah?
Well, I was just going to say, like, it didn't even hit me until the second watch. Like, of course, the principal male character is played by a woman. Because of course it is.
Yeah, I mean, it
was a real moment.
It's just like, oh yeah, of course. Like, obviously it is. Like, the repentant male, but yeah, obviously. Walter Fasano,
so is it actually...
that we were talking about, he... when you said that they were leaning into the whole, like, Mother of Tears thing, I wondered if you were talking about leaning into the actual film. Walter Fasano was the editor and co-writer of Mother of Tears as well.
Oh, well, I didn't care for it. Sorry, Walter.
Did they make them, like... No, it wouldn't... I can't do maths, you guys. I was going to say...
What were you going to say?
I was going to say, did they make the films 10 years apart? And then I was like, oh no, one of them's 2007. One of them's 1977. I was thinking about the Three Mothers. What was the other one? Suspiria, Mother of Tears, and...
I want to say the middle one was Inferno, but don't quote me on that.
When was that? It was in between them, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Mother of Tears was the latest one in 2007. They didn't do anything until 2018, which is pretty remarkable, actually. That as a collection of films has gone through so many
decades. Suspiria, Inferno, and Mother of Tears is the Three Mothers trilogy. Inferno's pretty good.
I would love to see both of them, actually. I would really like to see them.
I think Argento is one of those directors who really sort of peaked in the 80s and then just something went wrong. And
Argento hated this remake.
Did he?
Yeah. He basically said, I don't care for it. I
thought he was all right with it.
Well, no, what he said was that if you're going to remake a film, then you should remake it scene for scene and plot for plot. And
hello, Gus Van Sant's Psycho.
Well, no, the way that he said it. The way that he said it was, if you're going to remake a film, you should remake it scene for scene. And actually, if you're going to remake a film scene for scene, then what's the point in remaking it? And if you're going to remake it and reimagine the story and tell it slightly differently, then why are you calling it Suspiria? It's like, you pretentious arsehole.
He is such an old coot at this point. Basically, I have this, I can't remember which year it was.
Just seems like a cantankerous bastard.
100%. I went to Fright Fest. I want to say it was 2012. It was back. It was back when they used to have. I think it was the editor of Total Film, who would take to the stage and interview like the special guest that they had, and I think it was 2012. It was Dario Argento.
Yeah,
his English is not great.
Oh no!
So it was a strange interview. But he obviously, the Suspiria remake has been on the table for such a long time at this point. I believe, in fact, 2008 it was acquired. Yeah, 2008 they acquired the rights to remake it, and it almost went to David Gordon Green.
Yeah, no, I heard
which would have been so strange, because up until Halloween, he had a track record of basically comedy. And absolutely no horror. So that would have been a really weird fit, I think. But yeah, he asked him on stage about his thoughts on the proposed remake. And I just remember it's kind of a legend move. But Dario Argento just laughed and went, they can try. I mean, they did try and they succeeded.
Yeah, they did really
It was funny at the time. He's so cocky. He is unreal.
Really good. It was really great. I don't know. I think the biggest change between the two of them, I would say, has to be visually. Like, there's such a stark contrast between the even like the giallo-esque, like bright red blood. Even the blood is a different colour in these films.
I mean, red is literally the only real discernible colour in this film, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything's very muted, very subdued. And in early Suspiria, I'm just moving my head, assuming that everyone knows what I'm talking about. The colour palette is all like, it's blues and yellows. It's all primary colours.
It's all primary colours, yeah.
Bright and like an affront to the senses.
I love it. I just think it's the most beautiful horror movie.
I think it is beautiful. I don't know if I prefer it visually to the remake.
Okay. So dissenting opinion, because I know we talked about this already, and I know you thought the muted colour palette, Rosie specifically, I'm not sure about Phil yet, but I know you said that the muted colour palette was one of your favourite things about this remake, the fact that they went in such a different direction. And the reason that I wasn't as taken with it is, and this is going to make me sound like such a dick.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm rubbing my thighs in anticipation.
The reason I didn't love it as much is because I feel like if you're going to remake a film that looks like Suspiria did, what's the fucking first thing that you think of? What's the most obvious choice to go in a different direction? It's to go muted rather than the garish colours. And it's because of that I don't love it as much as you did, because it seems... I still think it's beautiful in its own way, in a very different way, and it's very striking, but it's the obvious choice to me.
All right, so let me ask then, had they not changed the colour palette and had they kept it as these bright garish colours, do you think that would have affected your enjoyment of the film? Because if they had, this film, in my eyes anyway, is very beautiful, but it's very beautiful in a very different way. Whereas had they stuck
incredibly
with those garish, which I find heartwarming and beautiful, actually. Whereas if they'd used those bright garish colours, the juxtaposition with those bright garish colours set in the autumn of 1977 West Germany, right next to the Berlin Wall, whilst it's snowing, like I can't make that work in my head. I don't think it would have worked. I don't think it was the easiest choice that they made because it was obvious. I think it was the easiest choice that they made because it was obvious in a very different way. Do you know what I mean?
Semantics?
Is it semantics?
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. And I'm not saying it was the wrong choice. I'm not saying I don't enjoy the way it looks. This is why I said it would make me sound like a dick. But I fully acknowledge that it's just because I am so in love with the way the original looks.
Yeah.
And because it's been so high on my, like, all-time horror movies for such a long time.
No, I get that. There was never going to be a remake that came out that you were like, oh no, this one's better actually. Oh, that thing that was my favourite thing before, that's no longer my favourite thing. Like, because you have, I think with films, especially films that you have known for a long time and you love because they're so different, like you really build up a sort of relationship with that film.
Oh, absolutely.
And
it's a
memories
comfort film.
get tied to it, and comfort, you know, like all these wonderful warm associations that you have with films like that. Or soundtracks as well are really important. And then actually a remake of that film which has a different soundtrack or a different aesthetic, and that relationship's not the same. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's worse, but it means that there's something lacking there that you don't have that you had with the first one.
I absolutely agree with everything that you're saying. Nostalgia is a huge part of it. It's almost impossible to compare the two too directly.
Yeah.
Because of my ties to the first one. But do not get it twisted. I fucking love this film.
I know you do, and I fucking love it too.
Like, this isn't going to end with me going, no, the original, nothing else.
Oh no, I think that as a film, I always say this, as a film in its own right, like, even as a remake, I think it's really fucking good. But as a film in its own right, like, chef kiss. Fuck.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful.
Masterpiece.
Yeah, absolutely. Tour de force. So, that's been Radio what did you think of Thom Yorke doing the lion's share of the music? Did he do all the music?
I Well, I mean, some of the pieces were classical, weren't they? I think it was
don't
either
know.
classical music or
Well, yeah, but I don't
his
know if
original
he
score.
wrote the classical music.
I don't know enough about classical music to answer that. I'm too much of a heathen, I'm afraid.
Well, I think it's more a question of I don't know enough about Thom Yorke to know if he does that, because musicians tend to have lots of different disciplines, so it might well be that actually he has a vested interest in classical music and can write orchestral pieces, which would be great. And I would love it if Thom Yorke had done the whole music for the entire film. But that's because I think Thom Yorke's great.
I think he did a really fucking good job with the songs that we know are his. His voice is pretty haunting anyway, so it was a good fit.
I know that he looked at music from Germany in the late 70s, and he sort of used that as a basis for the songs that he was writing. So
that's
it's
interesting.
Anachronistic, but not actually so far away from what was the truth. But yeah, I thought that was really kind of cool that he'd gone that far into his research to link it back to that specific time and place. I thought that was awesome.
But the fact that it is still a little bit anachronistic kind of adds this layer of like just unsettling.
Unsettling's the word, yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing feels quite right throughout the film. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I'm sure it's intentional. I mean, maybe that's why that whole Meinhof thing came up, like me going, that's not right. Well, actually, no, it wasn't, and that was deliberate. Yeah, very unsettling in a really kind of insidious under the surface way. Which is literally true under the surface. Shit was wrong. And again, it did a really, really good job of painting the sort of psychosphere at the time as well, with the Berlin Wall still being up and there being a massive divide between West and East Germany. And then inside the dance studio, you've got this massive divide between Blanc and Marcos, and the sort of dissent running through.
Yeah, this rift emerging where they have to vote.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like allegories within allegories, which I personally think is fucking great, and I love it. But I understand that some people find that really sort of on the nose and quite annoying.
I mean, I can completely understand why a lot of people find this film just too dense. Like, there's not as much to enjoy on a surface level.
No, there's stuff
because you're just not going to know what the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
But kind of going back to the idea of femininity and womanhood and everything, and to the kind of Baader-Meinhof movement, the German Autumn that keeps being mentioned. I think it's really interesting that, I mean, the whole German Autumn thing was largely male. It was male dominated. And one thing I sort of took from it is that the women kind of banding together in a literal coven, not even a metaphorical one, is, I don't know, it's sort of a good way of dichotomizing the fighting that was going on outside the studio, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And kind of maybe a comment on the fact that when women band together and they have their own autonomy separate from men, that it's something to be feared.
Oh God, no, absolutely. There's I'm
not saying it is something to be feared, I'm just saying that's the perception.
Oh, it definitely is something to be feared. Fuck yeah.
Well, I didn't want to say.
There's a quote in the film. I wish I'd written down who said it. I think it might have been Frau Tanner or something. But she says maybe it was Sarah. The Reich wanted women to shut off their minds and keep their uteruses open.
Yeah.
And that, to me, sort of encapsulated this entire idea of the women segregating themselves and removing themselves from men in order to maintain their like bodily and mental autonomy and
and gain a lot of power.
basically what I'm saying is I want to join a coven.
Let's start one.
Yeah, we've both got familiars.
Let's just start, like, fake our own deaths and start a new life in the woods. I'm down.
I almost instantaneously went, I wouldn't even fake it. And then I was like, no, then you can't join the coven, Rosie.
Jesus Christ. That got dark very quickly. Then I'd be on my own.
That's
not a coven.
Just fucking do it.
That's just me being mental sat in the woods on my own.
With 3 cats.
You have to be a part of this for it to work.
Because you know that if I die, you get 4.
Oh my God.
My mum would
Is he
have a
my
hissy fit.
godchild?
My mum would have
How
a
this works? That means I have 3 godchildren and one of them is a feline.
It's all right. You don't. No, Mum would keep Forks.
Okay.
Poor Forks. Is all I can say.
Feeding him would bankrupt me.
Oh, he's been losing weight. He's not quite as chunky as he was.
Now's probably not the time, Rosie. We'll talk about this later.
Act 2, Palace of Tears.
So, going back to Tilda Swinton, because I'm obsessed.
Which one?
Number 2.
Tilda 2.
Tilda Swinton.
Tilda
Electric
Swinton.
Boogaloo. That was terrible, and I love it.
And then you've got Tilda Swinton.
No, stop. Please stop.
Tilda Swint 1.
My question is, before we get derailed, did you know that Dr. Klemperer was Tilda Swinton, like, from the get-go?
From the first time I watched it.
Yeah, you clocked it straight away.
No, I didn't clock it straight away. I clocked it.
Okay.
I think the point at which I was like, that's Tilda Swinton, was when he is sitting outside in the garden at his country home with a blanket over his legs and is like looking into the sky or something. And I was like, no, I see you. I fucking see you. Because they named the actor like Lutz
Ebersdorf
or something. Ebersdorf, that's it. And everyone was like, who is this guy?
Yeah. Well, apparently, Tilda Swinton, they gave the character an IMDb page that Tilda Swinton wrote the bio for.
Like a backstory, yeah. So he's like,
had you guys...
like an actual psychotherapist.
Yeah, they went
they
deep fake with it.
Yeah.
Did you guys hear about how they got the name for him?
No.
I'm not sure about Lutz, but Ebersdorf are 2 German words, I believe. Ebers means swine and Dorf means town. Swinetown.
Huh.
Oh,
Tilda
Swinton.
Oh
Swinton.
my
Swinetown.
God. I love it. I absolutely love it. Did you hear that she got the prop department to make her a prosthetic penis to wear?
Yeah.
Genuinely, while she was
That
in
doesn't
character,
surprise me.
because she was just like, if I'm going to be a man, I'm going to be a man.
Be honest, if you had to spend hours of each day for months being a man, you'd want a dick, wouldn't you?
Yeah, probably.
It would make you feel like I'm a manly man.
Presumably, yeah. I've not given it that much thought.
I have.
Sounds like it.
I think I completely agree with Tildy. If you're gonna dress up as a man and be a man, then get yourself a fake dick.
That's commitment. I love it.
It's method acting.
Mm-hmm. But yeah,
Do you think she had, no. Do you think she had like a she weave sort of installed into it so that she could wee standing up as well?
I read a bit of trivia. I don't know the mechanics of the entire situation. I'm sorry to disappoint. There were no diagrams with it. Yeah, but much like you guys, I didn't really clock that it was her immediately. I thought maybe something was not quite right. And I knew that she played multiple roles in the film.
Oh, okay.
So I was kind of on the lookout.
I don't think I knew that when I first saw it. I definitely knew it this time around, obviously.
That's how repeat viewings work.
Does it? With me? Does it? Really? I get halfway through a film before remembering that I've already seen it.
You get eternal sunshine every time.
Yeah. Yeah, I do, I'm afraid. This was like watching it for the first time again, but it was wonderful. And I
to me, that's a superpower. Do you know how many films I wish I could watch again for the first time? Like, experience it again for the first time. That would be brilliant.
I think
you're a genius. Find a way to market this.
I fucking know. Just have ADHD and be really forgetful. That's how you do it.
That's not as achievable.
But there will be specific things that I remember from the first time that I watched it. So it's almost like I'm watching it for the first time, but I'm subconsciously informed about what happens. Like, it's very, very odd. There were a couple of bits that I noticed and was like, yes, I remember that from the first time. Like, outside Klempener's... Klemperers.
Does somebody need to put 50p in Rosie?
I think I just glitched out. There's a glitch.
Did you inhale your own
glitch
spit?
in the no, because I'm not an idiot. There's a glitch in the Matrix. I noticed outside Klemperer's house that there's he had a besom. He had like a witch's broom outside his country house.
I did not spot that. That's cool.
Which, so he's left that house exactly as his wife had it.
Oh, good call.
And his wife, Anchor, disappears, obviously, but she turns up later. Kind of.
Or does she?
Yeah.
Who, we should probably point out, is Jessica Harper. Original
Brilliant.
Susie Banyan, is it?
Yeah.
That's her name, yeah.
But yes, so Anchor not only disappears, but you find out what really happens to her at the end of the film. There, as far as I'm concerned, there's no way that the mother of Size would know what had happened to every single person in the world, but she would know what had happened to her daughters.
Oh, the ones that she was connected to, yeah.
Yeah. So
that's interesting.
It strikes me, well, that was what I took away from it anyway, that maybe Anchor was somehow involved. And actually Klemperer was sort of predestined through that connection to be involved as well.
Oh, he's such a sad character.
I know.
That's just kind of bummed me out even more.
He's got a very lovely coat, though.
He does.
That, like, kind of crushed velvet fur number. Ooh. Oh, I was all about that.
You do like a bit of velvet.
I do like a nice coat.
To take it back very quickly to the dancing itself, my only note about the dancing is, what kind of dancing is this? Because I don't care for it.
Did you not like it?
No. Doesn't do a lot for me.
It was definitely more contemporary than ballet.
Yeah.
Contemporary interpretive dance.
I do not like contemporary interpretive dance. I think it works brilliantly within the context of the film. Would I watch it outside of this film? No, I would not.
So
are you thinking about it?
No, I would not care for it. I have seen dancing like this live. It's really evocative. Like, it's really powerful, whether it's something that you necessarily enjoy watching or not. Like, it is a very powerful,
do you know what I mean?
Ritualistic act.
Do you know what I mean when I say the term secondhand embarrassment? Like your insides crumple.
Yeah.
And you
You're
feel bad for the people.
them.
Yes, that's how I feel. Much like karaoke.
You think that they're watching it back later and they're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, what have I done? I would like to think that all the dancers were very proud of themselves.
I mean,
because
I'm not saying it isn't impressive.
All of those girls work as they're all dancers. They're all professional dancers. The only ones that weren't were Mia Goth and Dakota Johnson. And actually, arguably, she is now a professional dancer.
After 2 years of intense training.
That much training.
Yeah. But that Volk in itself, that the actual dance, the sort of ritual, if you like, highly ritualistic, highly tribalistic, obviously going right back to sort of like the oldest witches in the world, that kind of thing. Everything was very pinpoint accuracy as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I found it really, really interesting. They used a lot of like heavy breathing, but it was heavy, repetitive breathing, like somebody being in childbirth.
Oh, I hadn't made that connection.
So like somebody being in labour, breathing so heavily, still bound in ropes. And it's
as mothers often are.
I mean, you're the only one of us here with a child. You tell us.
I don't want to know. But yeah, this idea of like women again being used to have their minds kept shut and their uteruses kept open, and like this incredibly visceral dance, which sort of encapsulates like womanhood and childbirth and rebirth, which is a theme that happens so much throughout this film as well. Like they're always talking about the ideas of rebirth and like somebody taking over and becoming anew and all of that. And I think that is an intrinsically very womanly thing.
Yeah.
Birth and rebirth.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, we've talked about it before, but it's like the saying, isn't it, that women create, men destroy.
Yeah. That idea. I really liked the dancing, I've got to say. I think we're at a point now where we can appreciate that A, we both like very different things, but B, I like some really weird shit.
I can't disagree with that, yes.
I like some really weird shit.
What did you guys have any interpretation as to the name of the track, the music that they dance to? It's Volk is the German word for people. Do you think that has any relevance?
In what way?
Well, just to any wider themes of the narrative. If not, fine. I just thought I'd throw it out there because like Volk is like Volkswagen is the people's car.
Up until about 10 seconds ago, I didn't know that's what it meant, so I have no thoughts.
I was just curious. I was curious to see if that tied into any kind of themes we've
I'm sure it must. Like I say, I don't think anything about this film is accidental.
Yeah, everything's been so meticulous all the way through. I can't pinpoint a specific reason for it to be called People, other than there are lots of people in it.
There are some people in the audience
Nailed
too.
It. Must be the reason why.
There are. Sorry. If you could be any one of the witches, what witch would you be?
Of the three mothers?
No, the teachers. All the teachers, all the witches.
I'd probably be the mousy one that stabs herself in the neck. Nah, I'm out, guys.
You were
Just
going to say
nope out of
that.
there.
You'd be the log lady witch. Brilliant.
Yes. I think I literally sent you a photo of that character while I was watching it, just like, me!
I've decided I would be Vandergast because she's really sassy. And
Which one was she?
She's the one that's got like crazy hair and always wears like bright red lipstick, and the one who pretends she's Madame Blanc to the policeman. And when she's showing Klemperer out of the building after he's been the witness, and she's just like, she's singing him a lullaby as she sends him off into the night wearing a silk dressing gown covered in blood. And I'm like, fucking yes! You are my favourite. I love you.
And that's the most relatable character to you. What about you, Phil? Which one would you be?
I mean, I wasn't expecting such a question, so I can't say I've given
Phil
it much
didn't
thought.
prepare an answer for us.
I am shocked and appalled.
I've let the side down.
Do the homework next time.
I probably wouldn't really have much much to do with that particular coven.
Oh, what is wrong with that particular coven? You're gonna get hexed.
Would you be Klemperer? You'd be the witness on the floor.
Actually,
yeah, okay.
Actually, this is a really relevant.
As long as I don't have to get naked at any point in this.
This is a really relevant show to be bringing up at the moment, because apparently there is some high-profile shit going down in the witching world at the moment.
Oh, really?
Oh, haven't people hexed the moon?
Like,
or something?
okay, right. So no, it's better than that.
Oh my god! What's better than hexing the moon?
TikTok witches.
Oh no!
Witches
as in
who
the app.
practice on TikTok
Oh, fuck.
have decided to hex the moon and the Fae.
What did the moon do
all
wrong?
of them. All of them. Just fuck the moon.
What's wrong with the moon?
I don't know if it's to like piss off other witches.
This is a world I have no knowledge of.
Well, apparently me either. Like I'm amazed. I want to know more.
I'm scared to know more.
I just how is this a thing? Why are there witches on TikTok? Why are they called TikTok witches? And why are they hexing the fucking moon?
My first question is, why is TikTok, to be honest?
Because Vine isn't.
Vine should be. I miss Vine.
Vine should be. You are absolutely
Vine very
correct.
much
Bring
should
back
be.
Vine straight away.
Nobody would be hexing the moon then. We'd all be fine. I can't believe that's a sentence I just said.
I was just thinking that. I was listening to it. I was like, huh.
2020 is fucked.
It's fucking weird, isn't it? Oh,
Even
dear.
the moon isn't safe.
Yeah.
But on that note, what do you actually think of the interpretation of witchcraft in this film? Because it's kind of unlike any other version of witchcraft that I've seen on film. I mean, it's arguably quite traditional in some ways.
It is quite traditional, I would say. And it does again remind me of like the coven in Hereditary and Midsommar. Like especially Midsommar, when they're all sitting around slapping that guy's ass.
Why have they always got to be naked? Genuinely. So much nudity in all of those films.
Oh, so many. Like I think I wrote there are so many nipples in this film somewhere in my notes.
Well, 17 of them on Helena Marcos.
Yeah, and she's got like a little mouth by her vagina. It's very
Genuinely,
strange.
the tiny little extra limbs just killed me.
Oh, She was watching, like, Sarah getting her intestines ripped out, and she's just, like, touching her nipple, just, like, rubbing her own tit, watching it. Oh, no, Helena Marcos, no. I did not appreciate that at all. Yeah, I think it's a very traditional and almost quite hedonistic portrayal of witchcraft. Like, it's obviously very much blood magic, but it reminded me of kind of more druidic practices, and like we were talking about the bog bodies and stuff like that. Like, what they would do was they would go to the center of the bog and they would like violently murder people and then throw their body into the center of a bog, so that the bog would produce what's called bog ore, which is basically really highly refined iron ore that you could make iron with by smelting it to make weapons. And it was during the Iron Age, so they were wealthy as fuck, like the Druids, basically, because they produced iron for weapons for the people. Like, Druids are amazing, witches are great. But everyone thought it was fucking alchemy, and they thought that the reason why that happened was because they violently murdered these people and, like, gave to the bog, and then the bog gave back to them. So this really kind of, like, again, tribalistic, killing in order to save others, and, like, killing your foes, and, like, it's very of that ilk of that time, and I really appreciate that. I think they've done a lot of their research into it anyway.
Yeah.
I think
sorry, carry on, Phil.
No, just quickly as well. I think it kind of ties into, like, the traditional kind of 1800s idea of witches, and then being is kind of effectively independent women who are have ideas above their station and therefore are witches. In this film, you've got, like you say, that in Nazi Germany, women were meant to breed, and that was it. And then all of a sudden you've got this kind of independent group of women,
independent group of spinsters.
Yeah, so like, if you
like forging their own path, So I think it really ties into the idea of kind of traditional idea of witches as being
ostracized,
ostracized, and also kind of anti-men.
Well,
yeah. Like, if you can't control it, then you ostracize it. Or villainize it in some cases.
Yeah. Because that's what it was, It was women a lot of women who were just getting uppity, essentially. This is...
How dare they?
Centuries
ago. Just say uppity.
I did. I'm sorry. I'm not saying that's how I feel about them, but
I don't know. You
like,
stumbled
it was women
across
who
that word very easily. All these fucking uppity women.
I should probably pipe down.
Histrionic dames.
Things.
I was just about to say very quickly, like, kind of contrary to what we were saying earlier when we talked about the coven almost being quite protective of their own. I think it's quite interesting towards the end where you realise that only goes so far, and actually they're quite mercenary, not only to everybody outside of the coven, but to those that dissent within it.
Yeah, because they talk about it's the Marcosites and the Blankites, isn't it? Like, the people who vote for Marcos, the people who vote for Blanc. And I just absolutely that last scene, that fixing of the dissent by just sending an avatar of death around
as
the
you
room.
do.
Just, hi. I just love everything about that scene. It's fucking bonkers. It is off the wall crazy, and literally just slow motion, like being on some kind of LSD trip.
Lots of head explodey.
Point at you, head goes boom. Point at you, head goes boom. But it's got that weird trailing camera as well, so everything's very much like one of those 60s drugscape, like in a red room. It's it's fucking brilliant. It's
well, like throughout the movie, they did a really good job of kind of mimicking the visual style of films of that era, even though it's a modern film. Like, it was shot on 35mm stock, so it's a filmed movie rather than digital. You know, all the kind of whip pans, the crash
the really
zooms,
slow zooms, and the
opening
kind of really wide angle shots as well. That's such a 70s thing.
The
opening
where they move, they look like the background's moving quicker than the foreground when they like
split
zoom in.
diopter shots as well,
like a dolly zoom, like the But the opening titles were very kind of Saul bass. You know, they're really careful to kind of mimic that visual style of like 70s era movies. And I think that kind of like trippy visual effect they had, you know, kind of, you see it all the time in kind of music videos of that era.
Definitely tied into that. I would argue that they sort of mimic the pacing of a 70s slow burn as well.
Yeah, it's a really slow burn movie as well.
Oh, a super slow burn. Like, stuff only really starts happening in the last half hour. So you got 2 hours of build-up, basically.
So...
Which...
That ending, yes?
Sorry, the ending.
That ending. Let's give that some attention.
I mean...
Okay, I have a question.
Yes.
Do you guys... At what point do you think Susie knew that she was actually Mother Suspiriorum?
The first time that she has a dream sequence and she wakes up screaming, "I know who I am."
That would make sense. I wasn't expecting such an on-the-nose answer.
It's either that or it goes back way before even then, when she is a child and she's dreaming about going to Berlin and something is calling her to Berlin, and her mother on her deathbed says that she is a smear on that Susie is her sin and a smear on the earth. So even if she didn't know, I think her mother knew.
Yeah, she knew something was up.
But I think at the point at which she was actually like, maybe I am the mama of size, was on that first dream sequence.
The dream sequences were fucking great as well.
Just amazing.
So good.
So creepy.
There were a couple of bits that had to be cut out, that they put in the first trailer, and they had to be cut out because they got sued by the estate of Anna Mendita, who is a photographer, artist, creates some really wonderful stuff. But there are a couple of... they were like consistently ripping off the work. So there were two main pieces. There was one which was a pair of hands bound in rope. It was very reminiscent of a Mendita piece. And there was a white sheet with a red blood body print on it.
Okay.
Which,
and you
again,
don't think that was
really
incidental? You think that was...
I think
intentional.
One of them might have been incidental. I think two
but
of
two's
them,
too much of a coincidence.
Yeah, I think they heavily drew inspiration from her work to the point where sometimes they just outright copied it.
Sneaky.
And I'm not surprised with Amazon, to be honest, but the Anna Mendita estate sued Amazon Productions. I assume settled. But Amazon cut those scenes from the trailer, from the first trailer, and they were never in the film again. So I imagine they must have gone, oh shit, we've been caught.
Can you still see them in the trailer? Is that trailer still
I'm
online?
not sure. I'm genuinely not sure. I haven't.
Okay, I'm going to have to go digging for that. That's interesting.
But yeah, those dream sequences are incredible. And it's hair and stuff.
I love it's the same feeling I got about the dream sequences in The Ring, just the assault on the senses, these kind of bizarre and grotesque, kind of seemingly nonsensical images all kind of like smashed together. I'm sure if you went through, you'd have relevance to every single one, but there's just such an assault on the senses that you just don't.
Yeah, and it happens so quickly you can barely register what everything is before it's moved on.
Exactly.
Yeah, but then Sarah says to her when she says, "Oh, you've had a bad dream. I was dreaming of hair in plug holes for weeks before I slept properly." Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, it's the same dream. Oh.
So, the finale. Obviously, you've talked about it in quite high regard. One thing I will say is that I feel like the camera technique that you talked about that kind of disorients you, I feel like that was perhaps also used maybe to disguise the fact that some of this, like, the bulk of the movie's CGI is in that scene.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that.
And I felt that some of the CGI kind of undermined it a little bit. It was not the CGI greatest.
Where she's ripping her chest open was actually not that great.
Without the heavy filter, I don't think it would have looked.
But that
brilliant.
bit wasn't on a heavy filter.
No, not to begin with.
You can, when she tears her chest open and she starts walking down the stairs, you get basically a close up on her chest, like spurting blood. There's no filter on that bit. It's just very obviously CGI, which I thought was a bit of a shame. But also, I mean, I guess you can't really.
The most on the nose yonic imagery I've ever seen.
Right, it is a vagina in her chest.
Literal chest cavity.
Yeah.
Talking of like the most female thing ever. I mean, it was on the nose. It was still great.
Right, like
I'm okay with really heavy-handed metaphors.
When it's about vaginas.
Only when it's about vaginas.
I was all about the ending, actually. I loved that kind of sudden juxtaposition where Thom Yorke's music, in my opinion, suddenly became quite modern day. Mm-hmm. And it was like Mother Suspiriorum had turned up and she had taken over and she had cleared out Marcos's lot, and it was like she'd become the rebirth and it was all starting anew, and then the type of music changed and became a lot more modern and a lot more relevant. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was a super neat way of kind of pushing along that narrative. I thought that was very cool.
Yeah, I think the big reveal at the end when you realise that Susie has been Mother Suspiriorum all along, I think is the best and the biggest deviation from the original. I think that was kind of a genius way to go with that.
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
That was my favourite thing that differentiates it from the original film.
I just think they did an excellent job with it. Thoroughly enjoyed it as a film in its own right. Thoroughly enjoyed it as a reimagining of the original. I'm here for it.
So I guess now's as good a time as any to do a quick wrap up. Have you got anything you still want to say, Rosie?
I am good. I think I have said all the things that I want to say. I have said a lot of stuff. I'm very sorry. I have kind of bogarted the conversation a little bit.
No, I enjoyed the heck out of it.
I'm glad. I am really glad. I've just super enjoyed being back, basically. I've super enjoyed being able to chat shit with you guys again, and I think we picked a great film to be able to do that with.
Same. I think I covered everything I wanted to say as well. I have a couple of notes, one of which makes me a total dum-dum.
Oh, what have you said?
I literally have a note that says shares an editor with Mother of Tears, Walter Fasano. So I fucking knew that. I wrote my notes a week ago. This is what happens when I have too much of a gap.
One of my notes says, sleepy songs for sleepy time.
I'd love to know the context for some of these.
Actually, there was one note which I didn't get to talk about, which I'd really like to, very, very quickly. It's just a sort of nod. We were talking about the motherliness and the idea of family and everything like that in terms of the coven. When Madame Blanc first comes to teach a class, she hugs all of the children, inverted commas. She hugs all the dancers and she kisses them like a mother would kiss a child. She has her hand on their face and she kisses them right next to their lips. And right at the end of the film, when Susie is asking the girls that she loves, what do you want? And they say, I want to die. She kisses them in the same way. And I thought that was a really beautiful sort of throwback. Like, I'm sure that was deliberate because it's a very specific way of kissing somebody. And it's very maternal and very loving.
That's a really nice touch. I like that bit as well because it kind of shows that Susie's not...
she's not, like, malevolent.
She's merciful, yeah.
Yeah.
I quite like that.
I was all about that. Yeah. So you've caught up on all the bits that you need to.
I think so.
I love this movie. I preferred it to the original.
I'm not surprised.
I think it ties the themes together much more strongly. Yeah, I mean, you guys know what I thought of the original. It was good. I didn't rate it the way a lot of other people do. I thought the use of lighting in it was a bit ham-fisted, which I know makes me a heathen, but it's like, we put a lighting gel over the spotlights and, it's like, it's a bit theatre 101.
You and I are going to have words after this, young man.
I know. No, I know. I'm going against the grain so much right now.
I'm sitting in between you guys. I hate it when you fight.
But no, I got to the end of this film and looked at my notes and wrote and just realised I haven't written down much at all in this one, and it wasn't because I had nothing to say. It was because I was just so invested in it as a movie.
Yeah,
as opposed.
I mean, that's high praise for a film that's 2.5 hours long.
Yeah, that you were so engrossed.
Yeah, and I didn't feel it dragged at all. Like, it was just...
Was this a first time watch for you?
It was, yeah.
Okay.
Well,
yeah.
So, because I follow you on Letterboxd, I saw you give it 5 stars a week ago. And I'll admit, I was shocked.
Oh, really?
I thought you'd enjoy it. I didn't think you'd enjoy it that much.
No, I really liked it. It was, the use of... I think maybe it was because of the fact that I had a bit of a preconception because of the original, and I saw what they did differently, and there was so much there that I was like, oh, I really like that decision. Like the idea of dance being ritualized and part of the magic. Maybe that was perhaps the reason I did rate it a bit more highly, just because I
liked it,
acknowledged those changes. Yeah. But no, I really loved it.
Yeah. I think if you're going to do a remake, this is how you do it.
I would go with that. Yeah, absolutely.
2 very enthusiastic thumbs up.
3
so
thumbs
on that
up
note,
when you really like something.
I think now is as good a time as any to wrap up and say thank you so much for listening. Come and find us on social media. We are at Radio Gorepress on everything, I think.
Yeah, we are.
And also visit radiogorepress.com where you can find links to everything. All the previous shows will always be free, but if you do want to support us, we have a Patreon account where you can access, I think we've got 31 minisodes now.
That's loads.
And if you sign
That's
up to
like
our
one a
second
day for a
tier,
month.
you can expect kind of half an hour of extra content every fortnight.
Yep.
And if you sign up to the first,
It's like 15 hours.
tier,
15 hours of extra
it's
content.
a lot of extra content. It's a lot of extra content. Even if you bail after the first month and just binge it all, we're good. We got you $5. We're happy. But yeah, we also have a Discord server, and we chat almost daily on there. We've got a rad little community that we would love to see expand in the near future. So
we want to make some new friends.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, on that note, thank you so much for listening. We will be back without a break next time. No more hiatus. So yeah, we'll figure something out for the next 2 weeks and come back with another show for you then. Until then,
stay spooky.
Bye-bye.
Bye.